If someone had told me that a delayed train and a broken shoe would lead me to the love of my life, I'd have laughed them off. But then again, life has a way of surprising you when you least expect it. It all began on a rainy afternoon in late October. I had just wrapped up a hectic day at a conference in a city I barely knew, and all I wanted was to catch my train and collapse into a corner seat with a book. But as luck would have it, my train was delayed by over 2 hours, and I was stranded in the chaotic bustle of the central station. The rain was relentless, and I was unprepared. My umbrella had betrayed me earlier, flipping inside out in the wind, leaving me drenched. Worse still, the heel of my shoe had snapped, leaving me limping awkwardly through the crowded station. To say I was having a bad day would be an understatement. I found a bench near the platform and sat down, trying to fix my shoe with a safety pin I'd found in my bag. It was a futile attempt, and soon I gave up and leaned back with a sigh. That's when I noticed him. He was sitting across from me, dressed casually in a worn leather jacket and jeans, with a backpack slung over one shoulder. He was reading a book, something thick and philosophical looking, though I couldn't make out the title. Every now and then he'd glance up, seemingly observing the chaos around him, and then his eyes met mine. It wasn't one of those cheesy moments where time stops or fireworks go off, but there was something about his gaze that held me for a moment longer than I expected. Embarrassed, I quickly looked away and pretended to fuss with my shoe again. "Need some help?" His voice startled me. I looked up to find him standing in front of me, holding a roll of duct tape. "For your shoe," he added with a small smile. I laughed, despite myself. "You carry duct tape around?" He shrugged. "Never know when it'll come in handy." Grateful, I took the tape and managed to patch up my heel well enough to walk without limping. "Thanks. You just saved me from looking ridiculous." "You're welcome," he said, sitting back down. "Rough day?" "More like a rough week," I admitted. Something about him felt easy, like talking to an old friend. We started chatting about the weather, the train delays, and eventually about books. He told me he was traveling back to his hometown after visiting a friend, and I shared a bit about my work. The conversation flowed effortlessly, and before I knew it, the announcement for my train echoed through the station. "Well, that's me," I said, standing up. "Thanks again for the tape. You're a lifesaver." "Wait," he said, pulling out a pen. He scribbled something on a scrap of paper and handed it to me. "In case you need more duct tape," he joked, but the note had his name, Arjun, and a phone number. I smiled, tucking the paper into my bag. "Thanks, Arjun. Safe travels." As I boarded the train, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just walked away from something, or someone, important. A week later, I found the note while cleaning out my bag. Impulsively, I texted him. "Hi, this is the girl with the broken shoe. Thanks again for the duct tape." He replied almost immediately. "Hey, I was beginning to think I'd imagined you." What followed were weeks of late-night texts and phone calls. Arjun was funny, thoughtful, and full of stories. He had a knack for making the mundane feel extraordinary, and I found myself looking forward to our conversations more than I cared to admit. Eventually, we decided to meet again. This time, it was intentional. A proper plan, not a chance encounter. We picked a cozy cafe halfway between our cities, and when I walked in, I saw him waiting at a corner table, book in hand. Seeing him again felt like coming home. We talked for hours, sipping coffee and losing track of time. It was as though the universe had pressed pause, giving us a moment to exist in our own little bubble. Over the next few months, we built a relationship out of train rides, long phone calls, and weekend adventures. Arjun had a way of seeing the world that made me fall in love with life all over again. He taught me to slow down, to notice the little things. The way sunlight filters through leaves, the sound of laughter in a crowded room, the joy of getting lost in a good book. But it wasn't all perfect. We had our differences. He was spontaneous to a fault, while I thrived on structure. There were disagreements, compromises, and moments of doubt. Yet through it all, we kept choosing each other. One year after that rainy October afternoon, Arjun surprised me with a gift. It wasn't flowers or jewelry, but a simple, well-worn book. Inside the cover, he'd written, "For the girl who turned a delay into destiny." That was the moment I knew he was the one. Whenever I see duct tape or hear the sound of a train whistle, I can't help but smile. What started as a bad day turned into the best thing that ever happened to me. Life, I've learned, has a way of throwing unexpected curveballs. Sometimes all you can do is lean into the chaos, and maybe, just maybe, you'll find something extraordinary waiting for you on the other side.